Bonsoir à tous. Hello, everybody. My name is Eric Biantoadi. I have a special guest for you. You mostly watch what has been said regarding the Congo DRC. So today we are going to do a special program. Is that online? You can call via WhatsApp to ask a question, and also we do it both in French and English. Salut à tous, je suis très ravi de vous amener dans cette émission que nous allons présenter aujourd'hui, une émission qui va passer à la fois en français et en anglais pour aider notre public à comprendre un peu les enjeux géopolitiques de la RDC, mais surtout à comprendre l'avenir de la RDC. Comment la RDC, comment on voit l'avenir de la RDC? Vous êtes au Congo, vous êtes à l'étranger, où que vous soyez, c'est une opportunité pour vous. Cette émission s'adresse à vous. Vous pouvez appeler, vous pouvez demander, poser des questions pour que les gens puissent comprendre un peu de quoi il s'agit. Alors, aujourd'hui, je vous amène Monsieur Monti, qui est recteur de l'université en RDC, l'université américaine en RDC. Il va essayer avec moi de parler un peu de la situation politique de la RDC, quels sont les enjeux de cette situation et surtout, nous allons approfondir nos débats sur comment vous, le téléspectateur, vous voyez les 5 années à venir par rapport à la gestion, par rapport à la gouvernance, par rapport aux élites congolaises, qu'est-ce qui n'a pas été bien fait, qu'est-ce que le gouvernement, le nouveau gouvernement de son Excellence Antoine Félix Tshisekedi, le président de la République, qu'est-ce qu'il doit faire pour que qu'il y ait de l'amélioration lorsque le gouvernement sera mis en place. Alors, professeur Monti, les gens ont l'habitude de vous écouter en français, mais là, ils seront ravis de vous écouter en français aussi. Pouvez-vous un peu vous présenter à tous ces francophones qui vous suivent en ce moment?
Merci. Maintenant, j'ai dit les quelques mots. Maintenant, en Toronto, c'est vraiment très, très, très froid. Et j'ai vraiment heureuse pour participer avec les conversations avec vous, monsieur, en Afrique, un pays, un continent, j'aime beaucoup parce que pour moi, les citoyens, les hommes, les filles, les jeunes, c'est le meilleur ressource précieuse. C'est le meilleur ressource. C'est mal fait par les gouvernements RDC, aussi les autres gouvernements, peut-être Libéria, les Zimbabwe, mais c'est la faute de la gouvernance. Mais les citoyens, par tous, veulent le gouvernement qui travaille pour les citoyens, qui assiste, qui tire les impôts, mais nécessaires pour donner les choses pour l'éducation, pour la santé, pour les rues, pour les infrastructures, pour toutes les choses qui assistent les citoyens pour les travailler. Particulièrement dans les citoyens qui travaillent le meilleur. Mais c'est seulement les usines internationales, comme vous dites avant, les élites qui habitent maintenant en RDC, qui tirent le meilleur chose, les argent. Mais c'est presque rien pour les citoyens. Pour moi, je pose les questions fondamentales. Pour les citoyens, est-il possible pour les citoyens tirer la ligne pour les gouvernements, pour insister le gouvernement dans les services? Pas le gouvernement, c'est seulement tirer, mais nécessaire pour l'as.
Okay, can you say it in English as well so that those who are watching you can listen about what you just say in French?
In English,
yeah.
The most precious resource in the continent of Africa is that of human capital, the choses humaines. And that sadly has not been well utilized. And the people are suffering. And particularly right now in Congo, they are suffering severe. It is probably the most under-resourced nation in Africa, notwithstanding that the Congo has immense resources potentially. which unfortunately go to the elites and go to those people that work in government. In Congo, it's government for taking, for extraction, not a government in service in terms of upgrading education, upgrading healthcare, upgrading infrastructure in terms of roads and sanitation, all those essentials to make life more effective, more efficient, and in the long term, actually generating more revenue for the nation state. So the government is basically just taking the cream off the pie without doing the heavy lifting, which suggests to me that Congo is in need of an educated, cognizant, service-centered citizen, whether they be male, female, regardless of orientation, but so long as that they're committed to truth, committed to fairness, and committed to nonviolence.
Great. Okay, so Mr. Monti, the President Felix Tshisekedi is going to training in 20 January. He's going to training. What Congolese people should expect from this training, and what all the nations should expect from this training. Alors, la question en français, le président Félix Tshisekedi va prêter serment le 20 janvier. Qu'est-ce que la population congolaise doit attendre de son nouveau mandat?
Idéalement, les citoyens demandent beaucoup. Mais dans la réalité, je pense le gouvernement de Tshisekedi donne presque rien. Seulement les bons mots. Les mots qui vident. Le mot, ça ne marche pas avec les puissances. Basically, the people should be asking for service, for assistance. But unfortunately, the government is not going to be able to do very much. La même chose avec la violence dans l'Est. C'est le problème grave. Mais les politiciens parlent les bons mots, mais nécessaires pour la paix, la violence ne marche pas, mais c'est vraiment difficile, c'est fragile. C'est nécessaire pour lever les soldats qui travaillent avec la précision, qui travaillent seulement dans les services pour les citoyens, pas le travail pour seul, mais pour tirer, pour donner les violences à les citoyens, particulièrement dans les femmes et les jeunes. Ideally, the problem in the Eastern DRC is significant, and words alone are not going to assuage or mitigate the violence. And what is required is a military, la même chose avec les policiers, avec the police, that are going to be professional, so they need to be compensated in a manner so they will not be forced to extract from the people. Also, in terms of the command, that the generals or the senior officers need to understand that they are there to serve and that they need to inspire leadership. La même chose avec les chefs de la police et les militaires. C'est nécessaire pour les chefs qui parlent, qui font les marches avec les soldats et qui mangent la même chose, qui dorment presque dans la même chambre avec les soldats, pas nécessaire les lits à côte, mais vraiment pas loin. La distance est minimum. It's necessary for the chiefs or the generals to dedicate that they eat last, they sleep last, that their dedication is to ensure that their troops are well fed, well housed. That inspires respect, and that is going to inspire discipline. That is going to be Kagame, of Rwanda's greatest fear, that he has a Congo militarized police force that is disciplined and dedicated strictly to the proposition in serving their country, making Congo strong. C'est la chose, le peuple, pour Kagame. Il perd vraiment qui le policier, les soldats RDC est une chose discipline, qui marche, qui travaille sur les gouvernances de les chefs avec les bonnes idées, les bons effets. C'est vraiment le plus peur pour les présidents de Rwanda, Paul Kagame.
OK. Can you say it in English as well? What do you mean by that in English, so that English native can listen as well what you say?
Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda's greatest fear is that Congo will have a disciplined police, a disciplined military, well fed, well provisioned in terms of equipment, but more importantly, well disciplined under the articles of combat as well as dealing with civil society, that they will be deferred deference to civil society and they will be able to assist. That will mitigate or put a great deal of pressure on Kagame to stand down with the resources that he has in Congo because he is subsidizing, direct or indirectly, the paramilitary groups that are creating havoc, perhaps to a minor degree, aided and abetted by the incumbent military and police because they are not treated with respect in terms of compensation. They're not treated with respect in terms of materiel. And more importantly, they're not treated with respect by their leaders who live well, who dine well, who are not serving with the troops, living with the troops, and inspiring leadership. That is Congo's long-term problem. And it actually starts in Kinshasa, from the president working your way down. Parce que le grand chef, le président, c'est nécessaire pour les présidents qui travaillent pour les citoyens, qui dit je suis votre servant, je suis votre personne qui donne vous assistance. Pour moi, seulement travaille pour vous. Pas pour moi, pas pour les personnes qui travaillent dans le ministère. It's necessary for Congo leadership, let alone African leadership, to create the mien, the ethos that they are servants of the people, that they are there to govern in service, not in exploitation.
Okay, so what do you think didn't go well during the time? What do you think didn't go well, and that President Tshisekedi should improve for these coming 5 years?
To begin with, I am sympathetic. To govern Congo is extremely difficult, extremely complex. Congo is a very large country and has very rudimentary to no roads in terms of binding the communities together, in terms of heavy transport, other than the river, other than, say, air transport, which when conducted is quite expensive. You need to engage in the regions with the villagers, particularly with the chiefs, that they are bound in what I term a civil contract, that they are members of a tribe, but more importantly, they're members of a state, the DRC state with infrastructure, which does not take away from their individuality in terms of their own personal nationality, whether they be from one ethnic tribe or another. But they need to provide deference. But at the same point, the president or the office of the president, the same element with the ministers, they need to understand that they are ministers in service, not in extraction. En français, le petit mot, c'est nécessaire pour le gouvernement seulement en service, pas un gouvernement pour tirer pour les argent pour les présidents ou les grands chefs, c'est pour donner l'assistance pour les citoyens. Congo, vraiment un pays avec plein les territoires. C'est difficile pour faire les traverses. C'est seulement peut-être par les bateaux sur le fleuve Congo ou dans les avions. C'est vraiment pas les chemins. C'est nécessaire pour les chemins de fer parce que on est déjà, il existe les chemins de fer, mais c'est presque pas un chemin de fer. Peut-être un chemin de fer entre Kinshasa et Boma, mais c'est pas marche toujours le jour. C'est pas. In English, Congo needs trains. They need railroad tracks throughout the country. Right now, there's only one limited track, and that's between Kinshasa and Boma, and that does not function each and every day. And that is to deliver foodstuffs, but more importantly, holding the politicians accountable to their constituents, to the people that live in the regions. So the people in the regions can have ongoing conversations that by rights, there should almost be a mandate that if you are elected to the national parliament in Kinshasa, you must set or be demanding or dictated that you must serve a certain amount of time in the regions, because that is how you are held to account. Those are the people that have elected you. And I'm not going to go into this point in terms of how the elections were counted. And that is what is missing, the lacking in contact between the parliament and the people. C'est en français, c'est nécessaire pour la connexion entre les citoyens et les parlementaires. Le parlementaire pas habite en Kinshasa, peut-être seulement quelques jours par année. C'est beaucoup de jours habitent dans les régions qui envoyaient en Kinshasa. C'est nécessaire pour commencer la conversation entre le parlementaire et les citoyens. Le citoyen m'a dit, le parlementaire, j'ai besoin peut-être un petit chemin, c'est facile pour protéger les légumes, pour protéger quelque chose, nécessaire pour l'assistance, pour donner ça. It could be as simple as the citizen asking the parliamentarian that I need a little road, not just a highway, but even a path that is easy to traverse, that I can take my cart or a little car to transport my goods. It allows me to make money. It allows me to go into the market. So in essence, Parliament should not be sitting all the time in Kinshasa. Parliament has its roots in the regions. Other than, say, the ministers, and even the ministers need to spend, and particularly the president. The president needs to be on the road, more or less 50% of his time, going into each province, showing what I call the metaphorical presidential flag, and hearing what the people have to say. Le même avec le président. Le président, peut-être, c'est nécessaire, c'est le grand chef. C'est nécessaire pour chaque province. Je fais le tour, je fais la visite, presque jour par mois, pour faire la conversation avec les grands chefs, avec les petits chefs, avec les citoyens. Nécessaire pour écoute votre problème. Vraiment, le problème en RDC est grave. C'est beaucoup d'années. C'est pas facile pour une année, 5 années. C'est, j'espère pour le président Chakate dit, c'est mon dernière fois le président. Je fais le design pour les chefs en l'avenir qui donnent les bons sens. Mais je commence maintenant parce que je donne mon livre privé avec les financiers. C'est seulement c'est mon salaire. C'est I'm going to open up my private books, showing that this is what I make a year and this is what I'm holding, even though I live in a presidential palace, which is paid for directly or indirectly by you, the people, whether it be through the extractive minerals, but I'm not paying for it. But I'm going to be transparent and I'm going to be holding my ministers accountable. I'm going to try to reduce corruption. Easier said than done. Les problèmes, la corruption, c'est grave. C'est pas facile pour exténuer. C'est vraiment grave. C'est nécessaire pour les politiciens dites. Je travaille pour vous. Regarde mon financier privé. J'ai pas les choses couvertes. C'est tout transparent. C'est tout ouvert. Open book.
Okay, so what you are trying to say is you are calling the government or DRC for the new government that will be set up. They should be more transparent in terms of what they have. They should present to the Senate and Parliament what belongs to them, so that when they will leave the power, they can come back and they say, "This is what I had in the beginning, and this is what I should again during my power." They more transparency.
Vous êtes vraiment la vérité, c'est la vérité. Vous êtes absolu le bon sens. La même chose avec les parlementaires. C'est nécessaire pour pas cache. La personne qui cache, c'est le problème. C'est jamais le cache. C'est nécessaire pour une chose qui j'ai le droit pour donner l'investigation. It's necessary even to have an empowered bureau that they are charged with the responsibility, this institution, to investigate arbitrarily each minister, including the president. I need to see what you have. What did you have when you came into power? And what do you have now, direct and indirect? I mean, if you publicize it, then we can hold you account. But anything that you do not publicize, we, the state, have every right to take 100% away. And if under circumstances, we will hold you in contempt of court and you may be sentenced to incarceration.
Hmm. Okay. So this is a transparency that mostly Congolese people should be work on that for this second mandate for President Tshisekedi. He should have a transparency, as you say, for his himself, for his ministry, and all his administration. So, how do you see these 5 years for President Tshisekedi? We know that it wasn't easy for the last 5 years. It wasn't easy, but how do you see the 5 coming years? What do you think that the President Tshisekedi may start with? Is that a security issue? Is that infrastructure problem? What do you see?
Allow me to say a few words in English and then I will do a précis in French and then you can
Mm.
elaborate following because what you have asked is vraiment c'est une question fondamentale. C'est une question fondamentale. C'est une question essentielle. Let us understand that in 2018, Tshisekedi came to power under circumstances that were compromised. I will go no further. They were compromised. I will further state this 2023 election, notwithstanding what I call the fundamental flaws, I believe Felix Tshisekedi did gain the plurality of votes, not necessarily 73%, but he did eke out a majority, albeit slim, notwithstanding that there are multiple candidates. So I will give him that and allow him to start. This will be his final term because under the Constitution, he is not eligible to seek re-election. And I'm hoping that he will make this a fact, allowing for other powers to rise in a non-violent manner. My hope for Mr. Tshisekedi is that notwithstanding the issues in Congo are fundamental and very grave, that he will say, I'm going to be an instrument leading into the future. I'm going to set the example. I'm going to be very, very clear, and I'm going to hold myself accountable, and I'm going to hold my ministers accountable in terms of what I call their finances. Also, I'm going to try to arrest in terms of the Treasury that we negotiate a fair deal with the international financiers, that the majority, not necessarily of money, but there will be a certain segment of money, but the good jobs, the jobs that require skills are going to be in Congo, which means that it's more than necessary to upgrade the education system in Congo because you want to have workers that are trained and educated in the technical arts as well as the soft arts, because Congo is blessed with a citizenry that is and are extremely intelligent, very ambitious, and want to work. But they want the good jobs, the jobs that pay reasonably well, that are just not digging ditches or the dangerous jobs going down into the mines and extracting the resources. They want the jobs in terms of refinement, operating the machines that are doing the digging, maintaining the machines that are doing the digging, because that will allow them to transfer onto their children in terms of holding the family to cohesiveness. And that is going to be a long-term progress. It will not be accomplished in these 5 years, but it will be a start. And it will, more importantly, signal to the other countries abutting Congo in the east that Congo is attempting to change the track. And you better watch because it's going to migrate into your country. So you need to be held accountable. En français, le petit mot en français, parce que malheureusement, mon français, c'est pas fort comme mon anglais. Mais donne-moi quelques mois encore en anglais. Congo, mon français levé. C'est la même chose. Pour le gouvernement, c'est seulement le gouvernement en service. Le gouvernement qui travaille seulement pour les citoyens donne le bon travail, pas le travail simple, pas le travail petit. C'est nécessaire pour le travail qui demande les cerveaux, les choses techniques, les choses intellectuelles pour les bons argent. C'est encore pour les nécessaires pour lever les éducations, les écoles, les universités, pour donner l'éducation pour les personnes comme ça. C'est pour le Congo, c'est les bénéfices pour l'État. Et aussi pour les bénéfices pour les nationaux, parce que les tribus, les autres personnes qui, je suis congolaise, je suis fier, parce que mon président, mon ministère travaille pour moi, il donne les questions profondes et moi, je donne le travail. Mais nécessaire, je demande les respects, je demande les services. C'est nécessaire pour le gouvernement, donne les services. C'est nécessaire pour les contrats civiques, civils, sociaux. C'est maintenant, c'est manque. C'est vraiment, qu'est-ce que le mot? C'est pas fort. The social contract needs to be strengthened between the government and the people that are governed. So it needs to be a two-way street, that the people will support the government so long as the government agrees to provide the people with what I call the fundamentals. Security, that they are free from harm, that their young boys and young girls can go to school unmolested by militia, unmolested by violence, whether it be in the East or whether it be in the Central, and be subject to rule of law, non-arbitrary, normative, that is equal for all. Secondly, they need to be allowed access to basic elemental health care with nurse practitioners who are trained in one region and then sent back to their home regions to share their skills. There needs to be what I call a development of roads, whether basic roads and you migrate up, concomitant with the chemin de fer, with the trains, with railways cutting through Congo. It will make it easier for the connection. But more importantly, it's going to make government more accountable because they just can't talk. They need to walk the talk. That's the other element of what I call the dialect in the social contract. Whether the government is ready, the people want it already, and I'm hoping that President Tshisekedi, so this is a shout out to you, Mr. President, and I'll say this in English, and hopefully your people will provide you with a good translation. Mr. President, you have been granted, privileged, an awesome responsibility, an awesome challenge. Now you will show not only to Congo, but to Africa that you can make an instrument of governance in service, not extraction. That may, and it must require you being a leader, transparent in terms of disclosing your own personal wealth, also in terms of all contracts that are letted between industry in Congo and international industry that is public, and it will necessitate that the contracts are calibrated to the benefit of Congo, notwithstanding that other parties need to make a profit, but it needs to be a profit that is reasonable and fair. And that will require building infrastructure in Congo for the refinement of whether it be minerals, whether it be the refinement in terms of developing hydroelectric power, allowing for vehicles to be built in Congo, because Congo needs trucks because the roads are hard. Why not subassembly, as is done in Canada with American and Japanese and even German cars? They're subassembled in Canada, allowing Canadian citizens to have high-paying or good-paying jobs. It's the same thing. It's all possible. La même chose dans les RDC avec les fabriqués avec les voitures. En Canada, les personnes qui fabriquent les voitures américaines, les voitures allemandes, les voitures japonaises, mais c'est le travail qui gagne l'argent. Bon, aussi nécessaire pour les techniques, c'est nécessaire pour l'école technique. It's universal. And that is what I'm pleading for you, Mr. Tshisekedi, along with your team of ministers. Understand that you are in service, not in extraction. And you cannot just talk, you need to show. And sadly, the election was flawed. And you need to start right now for the next election. It needs to commence now with an electoral commission that is truly independent, that is absolutely professional and ethical, and beholden only to the citizen in objective electoral conduct, that the state's obligation will only be to fund it and to ensure that the monies are accountable in a proper manner. Other than that, it's hands off, and thereby allowing the citizens in the next election their choice decision, regardless. C'est nécessaire pour commencer les choses pour l'élection prochaine maintenant. C'est nécessaire pour les CENI professionnels, une CENI éthique, Une CENI indépendante, c'est une CENI, c'est pas protégé avec le gouvernement, c'est seulement séparé. C'est seulement séparé. Le chose seulement d'argent, c'est nécessaire passer l'argent, l'État, pour les élections qui reflètent le choix, le voix, le citoyen. Commence maintenant. Start now.
Okay, so I hope that the message, the government get the message, and Congolese as well get the message about the development of the country. So, what will be your advice in terms of development, in terms of security purpose, and in terms of education to the government?
You need to allocate resources starting at age 3 or 4 because good citizenships, good civics starts at early school where young boys, young girls understand the concept of sharing as well as understand the concept that you help those that are vulnerable, that those that are weak, and it builds up and it's going to lead up to when they go into secondary school and then on to technical school or university and then eventually into the professions, that they will become good citizens, dedicated to the proposition that, yes, if I work hard, I should be entitled to keep many of the fruits of my labor. That, to me, is fair. But at the same time, it does not give me the right to plunder from someone, that to treat all peoples with dignity, with humanity, and that will make the state strong. And that is going to put all other nation states in Africa on alert because Congo can be the linchpin of this continent, Africa. When Congo speaks, Africa listens. South Africa is going through a very grave problem with now the ANC subject to extreme corruption and is faltering, unlike what Mandela did. And South Africa has significant problems, but Congo, occupying geographically and with resources, is unique, and it can be a beacon into the world and demand a substantive place within the United Nations in New York, a voice speaking on behalf of Africa. Right now, it's being acceded to Nigeria, and they're not doing a very good job. And Nigeria is going to encounter some very severe problems because they have wasted billions, if not trillions, of their oil revenues on waste and graft. And when the oil runs out, or is subject to a severe change, I have fears for what's going to happen to the country. And you see what's already happening in the northeastern with the Sahel area, where you have Janjaweed, where you have the Boko Haram creating the destruction. Moi, j'ai vraiment peur parce que nécessaire pour Congo, particulièrement les citoyens bons. C'est nécessaire pour l'éducation qui commence avec le petit garçon, avec le petit à 3 ans. Ou 4 ans pour apprendre les connaissances protégées. Protéger et donner l'assistance avec votre voisine qui est faible. C'est nécessaire pour les bonnes citoyennes comme les citoyennes filles, les citoyens garçons dans les universités ou aussi dans les collèges techniques. Pour les choses, c'est nécessaire pour le gouvernement travaille pour moi. Et quand j'ai l'expérience pour participer, c'est nécessaire pour engager service, service, service. Pas pour nous, c'est pour les citoyens en total. C'est pour les citoyens. C'est nécessaire pour engager avec le petit. Après, tous marchent bien. Mais c'est nécessaire pour beaucoup des années. Pas dans 1 année, pas dans 3 années, pas dans 4 années, pas dans 10 années, pas dans 20 années. C'est peut-être 60 années. C'est nécessaire, c'est dur, c'est pour long term, not the short term. Pas court. C'est nécessaire pour les loin. C'est les distances grandes. Mais nécessaire pour commencer maintenant. Et M. Félix Chakati, c'est le bâton, c'est dans votre main. C'est pour vous, pour commencer. Je travaille pour les citoyens, tous les citoyens en RDC.
Great. Okay. So when it comes about education, what do you say about the Congolese elite? We know that education has failed in Congo. many people that for education has been failed for them. So, how do you say about education in Congo?
The potential is awesome. Unfortunately, the Congo elite themselves, not being what I call critically well educated, are fearful of having their citizens more critical than them, being able to pose the tough questions and not accepting the simplistic answers. And so that is why they're not, how does one say, motivated to inspire an educated cadre. But that needs to change. It needs to be transformative. There needs to be what I call a coup intellectuel dans les RDC pour les citoyens qui posent les questions fondamentales à la gouvernance. And that is the problem. And that is the fear, and why many universities are shut down. And they need to be funded, direct and indirect. It needs to be between the government and the private citizen, and also industry in terms of sponsorship. So it needs to be a partnership, because I believe the student needs to pay his or her share. And yes, in terms of scholarships, if the citizen who is absolutely brilliant coming out of, say, Central and has no money, then perhaps scholarships, or what I would suggest, you provide them with a loan, and that will be repaid, but assuming what the citizen does. If the citizen is going to go to a well-paying job within the government or a well-paying job in the private sector, then he or she will be required to pay back the loan. But if the citizen is going to be, I'm going to be a nurse practitioner in the region where I'm not going to be making very much money, then the loan will be forgiven over time. And that's going to encourage people to consider going back to their home regions with their highly expensive education, whether it be in law, healthcare, engineering, or in the technical trades, which are absolutely important. Because if they know that they can go into their village not making much money, but to transform, and the government is going to provide them with indirect assistance, saying that you do this for X number of years, we're going to forgive your loan, and we're going to thank you. J'ai dit en français le petit mot, et j'espère pour vous, monsieur, après, dans les mots en français. C'est nécessaire pour protéger les frais. C'est nécessaire pour les citoyens, les étudiants donnent quelque argent. C'est nécessaire pour l'État donne quelque argent. C'est nécessaire pour peut-être les usines qui donnent quelque argent, particulièrement dans les choses scientifiques ou dans les choses santé, mais nécessaire pour protéger. Quand les citoyens qui veulent, je suis maintenant un avocat, ou peut-être un médecin, ou peut-être avec la santé, et je veux retour dans mon village, mon petit village, pour pas beaucoup d'argent. Et j'ai beaucoup d'argent qui payé dans les universités ou l'État. Et nécessaire pour l'État ou les universités, ou premièrement, l'État dit, vous travaillez dans la région pour peut-être 10 ans, et après, je donne votre argent, les dettes, un cadeau. C'est pas le payer dans l'État, parce que vous donnez les services pour l'État. C'est notre cadeau pour vous, parce que je comprends. Votre dedication, votre travail. So what I'm saying, it's going to encourage people to return to their villages, to otherwise that wouldn't, because they will not be obligated to pay back the debt, but it will be contingent. And I have absolutely no fear in terms of extracting. If people work for high-paying jobs, then they should be required to pay over time the full debt with a little bit of interest. But for those people that return back and make next to no money, why should they be obliged to pay this gross debt? Because they're helping the state, they're helping their fellow citizens. Then the state will say, we are going to help you because you are a resource, a treasure. So we are going to extend to you this gift. And that will encourage. And that is only going to make Congo stronger in terms of what I call the social civic infrastructure.
Okay. Mr. Monti, thank you so much. Our network is very bad today. What will be your last word before we finish? The connection is not really good today.
Le dernier mot est seulement pour les citoyens RDC. Vous avez les pouvoirs. Le pouvoir reste dans votre main. C'est pour vous demander les questions dures. C'est vous demandez à votre chef Pourquoi? Pourquoi pas? Et aussi pour les chefs, c'est nécessaire pour vous faire le travail en service pour votre citoyen. It's for the citizen to ask of their leadership, why are you not doing this for us? Why do we elect you? What is wrong? How can we help? And more importantly, for the leadership, we are in service to you. It's a fiduciary responsibility. We are there to help you. Let us work together. Ensemble, ensemble, travaillons. Merci.
OK. So, amis téléspectateurs, merci. Vous avez suivi l'intervention de M. Monté. Nous sommes obligés de couper notre conversation aujourd'hui parce que la connexion n'est pas trop bonne aujourd'hui. J'espère que vous avez tiré profit de ces messages qu'il a envoyés. L'élite congolaise, la jeunesse congolaise, la population, c'est à vous de demander aux autorités qu'est-ce que vous voulez du développement de votre pays sur tout le plan. Infrastructure, éducation, santé, tout ce que vous voulez. Vous êtes là pour demander aux autorités de vous donner le meilleur, le maximum pour que vous puissiez avoir une vie stable et surtout vivre en paix. So we are happy to have you in this program. We are almost finished this program. We have a little bit problem with network today. So I hope that you follow this debate. It was great. We talk about many stuff. So it's hard to Congolese people to ask to their leaders, to the authority, what they want in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of whatever they need. So also to the Congolese government, you have to listen to your people so that they can also live in the situation of peace and in situation of good development. I hope that we'll have you in the next debate. We thanks Mr. Monty, I'm sure, Marchi, for participating in this program, and we hope to see you again next time. Mr. Monty, good for now.
Merci, merci. Bonne journée à tous.
Merci. Au revoir, chers téléspectateurs. Au revoir, au revoir.